All right. Today's talk is about parenting during cancer treatment and how to help your kids and yourself make your way through this very difficult time. Very, very stressful to try and get better yourself while managing your kids' ups and downs and helping them deal with all the feelings that they're having while you're having a lot of those feelings yourself. So one thing we know is that when you get a cancer diagnosis, the fear and the sadness can be quite overwhelming. You have fears for your own mortality, and if you have children, you worry about how maybe your own death or your own prolonged illness is going to affect them and their well-being. Many families find that at a time when they wish they could come together, things get even more stressful. Kids may act out and have behavior problems, or they withdraw and they're sad. They may be resentful because your routines change. You can't get them to hockey practice or out with their friends, or you have many babysitters come over and look after them while you're ill. And you just can't do the things that you used to be able to do with your children, and that can be very heart-wrenching as well. Also, if you are in a co-parenting relationship and your ex takes the kids, you may have to rely on your ex partner, and that may or may not be difficult depending on the kind of relationship that you have with your ex. So there's all kinds of complications. So what I'm trying to do with today's talk is to give you an outline of some of the pitfalls and some of the developmental concerns, so the concerns that kids of different ages have when they have a parent who goes through cancer treatment. One of the first things you need to do is feel comfortable talking to your children about your cancer. Many people wonder if they should bring it up with their children or how to talk with their children. It can be a very difficult conversation, particularly if you get tearful yourself. If you start to feel sad during the talk, it can be scary or frightening for your child if you become overwhelmed by emotion and break down. So you want to be in a place where you can get teary. That's fine. Kids need to know that it's okay to cry in front of each other, to be sad. But maybe if you're going to have a very prolonged and long crying session, which is good, you need to get those feelings out. Especially younger children, teenagers may be able to understand it a little bit more if you can tell them that you're okay, you're just very upset about this, you needed a good cry, and then you feel better. Not that something bad is going to happen. But with a preschooler, that can be quite frightening. So to a certain extent, you want to be able to talk about it. You don't have to be stoic. You can cry together with your child and let them know that it's okay to feel sad. And be honest and upfront about what's going on, what this may mean. And children often have concerns that aren't always completely related to your diagnosis as well. You may think that they ask, will you be better by Christmas, because you think that they're wondering if you're going to die or not, when they're really wondering if you can go to grandma's in California this year. So you need to understand why a child's asking a question that they're asking and the kinds of concerns that they have. They wonder if they'll have to move if you have cancer treatment, if you're not able to work and there's not money coming into the house like it used to, or if you do die, will you have to leave your home altogether, and will they have to change schools and lose their friends, or will they not be able to participate in sports like they used to because there's no one to drive them? And some of the questions you just won't know the answers to right away. You won't be able to promise them things that you can't promise. That's an important point too, actually. You don't want to make promises that you can't keep. Even if you don't have cancer, you can't promise your kids that you're not going to die. Death comes suddenly and without warning at times, and making that kind of promise isn't very realistic. You can be upfront and say, this is what the doctors have told me. They think my prognosis is good or not so good, or we're going to do our best. And give them a realistic and honest appraisal of what's going to be happening. And using language that they can understand. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So a lot of parents wonder if they should even use the C word, whether or not they should say the word cancer to their children. And generally it's a good idea to say cancer and to explain. That also opens up the conversation that, my cancer isn't like Uncle Jack's cancer. He had lung cancer, which could be very aggressive, and my cancer is different. The doctors warn me the treatment still may not work, but I have a good shot at it. Or the doctors tell me I'll be sick for this long during my treatment, and then I should start to feel better. Because all cancers are so wildly different and have a different prognosis and a different trajectory, that kids, even very young children, may have an idea of what cancer is, either from hearing about Bobby's mom at preschool or through the news. And you need to let them know that cancer isn't necessarily a death sentence, if that's true in your case, and that your treatment may be very different, or that you may need to go away for a period of time if you're going to be say up on Unit 57, like many of the bone marrow transplant patients. They have to be separated from their children under 10 because they're not allowed up there. And you need to give them a realistic idea of what's actually happening. If you use other words to describe the cancer, like bump or growth or sickness, mommy's very sick, and you don't explain what it is, and then the child hears it secondhand, that can also cause a bit of a breach in the trust that you have with your child. They may not feel that you're telling them everything, or that you're trying to protect them. So when you are telling them the truth about what's happening, they may still be suspicious. So it is actually important to use the C word, one, to maintain the trust that you have with your child, and also in case they hear it from someone else, either on the playground, they overhear someone else's mother talking about you, or a family member drops the secret. There's all kinds of other people that may know about what's happening, and your child really does need to hear it from you first. A lot of parents ask me as well about how to get their kids to talk. Many kids feel uncomfortable during the conversation and don't want to talk about it, or you have a hard time getting them to tell you their feelings about what's going on inside of them. Many times that's because they don't want to upset you. They worry that if they tell you what's happening, then you'll get upset, because then you'll be worried about them instead of just working on your cancer. And you can tell them that it actually makes you feel relieved to hear what they're feeling and what they're thinking, because you want to know that they're okay, that it's good for you to talk about this stuff, even if it's difficult, because you can still help them solve different problems, or get an uncle or an aunt or the other parent to intervene and help them with some of the things that they're worried about. Like if they're really sad that they can't go to soccer practice, maybe you can, but they've been afraid to tell you that. Maybe then you can brainstorm ways to get other adults or maybe one of the other kids' parents to take them to their soccer practice. Another good way to get kids to talk is to do something with them, to go on a car ride. When you're not directly looking at them eye to eye, often that's a good time to get kids to open up to you. Or if you're doing an activity together, either a craft or baking or playing a game together, all of those things help kids to feel more relaxed in the situation. It's more social. You're not looking eye to eye. You're not having the talk. And they're more likely, child psychologists use that trick all the time. We play lots of games with kids because they're fun, but also because it takes sort of the pressure off of them. Sometimes with young children, I'll even use toys or puppets to talk about feelings, and so the puppets have a mummy who's sick, and we talk about how the different puppets feel. So sometimes that's another way to get younger children, preschooler children, to talk as well. One time I was working with a child, and I set up a scenario, and he looked at me and he said, the same thing happened to me. And I said, oh, imagine that, the same thing happened to you. How did I know that? So there are other ways that when you put the spotlight on a child, they're more likely to become closed and guarded. If you can make them comfortable and not have the focus on them, then you're more likely to get them to open up. Another way to get kids to open up is to not ask them, how are you feeling, but